Archer. Welcome to the stage. What you got?
Thank you. You mentioned, Dr. Anas, you mentioned a couple minutes ago the European natural gas situation. Was curious if you could talk about how we would read articles late summer, early fall. Germany's at 100% storage, and then turn around and read articles about how this industry is shutting down this plant or they're reducing capacity. BASF is concerned about their Ludwigshafen plant, whether they can power it. So it's like mixed messages whether they were actually able to hit 100% of a functioning, robust economy, or was it 100% of a maintenance economy to maybe make it to the spring. So I was curious if you could just amplify what that 100% storage number actually means. Thank you.
One, this is an advice for whoever trading, or if you are dealing with equities, etc. We work in the market, and you watch the market every day, and you read Twitter, and you read various newspapers. Seriously, you got to be very careful with the media in various ways, and you got to remember the fact that the journalists are overworked, underpaid, and they have to finish the article on a deadline. You have to keep that in mind all the time. And under those circumstances, you got to understand how the story basically is so focused, and it's your job as a reader to put it in perspective and put it within the larger picture. If you just take it as is like that and you forgot how those journalists operate, again, they are overworked and underpaid, and they have to finish within a deadline. So you have to think about it from that way, and you got to put the frame for that story. And if you fail to do it, then you end up with serious problems. We already have seen several examples in recent weeks on that, including that story about the increase in production by OPEC. Before that, the UN story or others. So where is the problem? The problem is, and this goes back to the idea of statistics. Historically speaking, when they used to say, well, historically the storage was always 80%, and they survived, and now it's 100%. Well, the flow of gas from Russia was continuous from all sides, and they forgot about that part. That, yes, it was 80% full, but all the pipelines basically were flowing with gas. And now only very few of them are flowing with gas. So 100% does not mean much. Yeah, it makes the situation a little bit better, but not much, because we need that gas to be flowing. And that's really where the mistake is, that those media reports did not put the whole picture together to tell you what's going on. The other issue related to this is they talk about the EU. All the numbers basically is an average and for the whole EU. That does not make sense. Because if you look even at shortages of electricity in Europe right now, you see some areas basically are not affected at all. And some areas basically they have some major shortages, but we always get the averages and the whole picture about everyone. That does not make sense either. So yes, the storage is 100% full, but to be successful, we need the flow of all those pipelines. The replacement is LNG, and they have a lot of LNG coming in. The problem is it is extremely expensive. Think about it this way. The cost of energy this year in the EU is $700 billion. Only energy, the cost of energy, $700 billion. Where that money is going to come from? And yet the government's committed and made the big mistake of offering subsidies. They always preached around the world that we need to stop fossil fuel subsidies. We need to, and they've been telling the Africans and Latin Americans and others, stop fuel subsidies. And they are the first abuser to do it when they got stuck. And now we have fossil fuel subsidies in several countries in Europe. What does that mean? If they let prices high, then people will conserve on their own and markets will adjust. If you give compensation to people, then they are not going to adjust their consumption, and therefore the demand is going to continue, and we are going to move on to next year, and we are going to have the same problems. But the bottom line is where that money is going to come from. Well, if you look at the UK, what the UK did was something really contradictory. What they've done, they said, okay, we are offering those fossil fuel subsidies to people so we can reduce the pressure on them and we can reduce inflation, the impact of inflation on them. But we need the money. Where we are going to get it? We are going to impose an excise profit tax on oil and gas companies operating in the North Sea and within the UK. And we are going to take that excise profit tax that we collected from the companies and we are going to give it to people. Well, again, back to the beginning of the space today when we talked about the unintended consequences. What happened? Well, we have companies who said, oh, by the way, I was trying to build this project in the North Sea, and now I'm going to leave. Lower investment and lower production. And then other companies came in and said, well, I was going to build this massive wind turbine farm in the middle of the ocean, and I'm going to spend $25 billion on it to meet what you guys want, which is the green energy. But by the way, you just took the money from me and I cannot build this project anymore. So they got hit on all fronts when it comes to oil and gas and renewable energy because of those policies. And you can see the impact of that and and how it backfired on them. Back to you.